about the book, the background of the book, and a few other bits. And then I'm going to do a reading if all the technology works. So I hopefully won't keep you too long, and then you can get back to drinking and... Oh yes, wonderful. I'll stand on that. Yes, that's...
Don't move around.
That's brilliant.
And careful, they do break with a lot of weight. So
Okay.
nothing will happen.
I'm not heavy, that's fine. Right, okay. So, firstly, I want to thank you all for coming, particularly as I changed the venue and you all thought up until last month that you were going to Farnham. So, I appreciate some of you have had to come a bit further. For some of you, it's a bit nearer. I would also like to thank Steph. I know she's busy over there behind the bar, but Steph stepped in as the new host after Waterstones couldn't host this anymore. And she's been very accommodating. She's put on this lovely spread, organised all the drinks, so very grateful to her.
Thank you.
Chandlers hasn't actually been open very long, and me and Catherine have been coming here quite regularly. It was the thing that Clanfield was missing when we bought the house, so we was over the moon when it opened. I would also like to thank my proofreaders and all the people, Lucy is one of them, all the people basically that have given me feedback on Million Eyes 2 and helped me refine it and make it into the book it is here. Obviously, Vicky, my muse. I won't embarrass you as much as I did last time, but I appreciate all of your continuing input. Let's just do that. I would like to thank my publishers, Elsewhen Press. Sadly, they couldn't be here, but I want to thank them because they have continued to believe in me by publishing yet another of my books. I would now like to make an apology to my dad. Who is 65 today. And I have totally stolen his birthday thunder by having my book launch on the same day. So thank you, Dad, and I will make it up to you. I'll buy you a nice dessert or something later. Also, you do not look 65. I was saying this to Catherine the other day. It's a bit astonishing that that's your age. Yeah.
Good luck trying to hide it.
Yes, I've outed you, sorry. I would also like to say thank you to my dad and to my mum and to Catherine's mum Linda and stepdad Adrian and my auntie Julie, where she is, there she is, because if it wasn't for all of them...
Not me, sister.
There's a reason.
Oh, okay.
You did this to me last time. Yes, I would like to thank my sister for everything and anything. But without our lovely families, we might not all be standing here because this book might not yet be released. As most of you know, me and Catherine bought a house just down the road from here earlier this year, and there are some children present, aren't there? So let's just say we were royally pooped on by our first builder, who wrecked our house, ran off with most of our budget and left us to pick up the pieces. And it was thanks to our wonderful families who helped us out financially and with a lot of time, and my mum and dad took us both in for a couple of months. It was thanks to them that we were able to get our house finished, and I was able to refocus on getting this book edited and proofread and released. It was delayed a couple of times, but if it hadn't been for all of you guys, then we might still be living in a building site, still dealing with tradesmen all day, every day, and writing would still have been the last of my priorities. So thank you all. I would finally like to thank my wonderful Catherine. Oh, no, I can't look at her because you won't hear me. Let me move this way then. Yes, Catherine and I have not actually known each other very long. We only met a few months before the first lockdown. And I feel like I've known her for years and years. I hopelessly, totally, ridiculously am in love with this woman. And she is the person who's kept me sane through the past year with all our building woes. She's so level-headed, she's so practical, she's so patient. Anybody who knows me knows that these are not traits I possess. So I'm so grateful to her, and in terms of writing, she's been so supportive, and she's always willing to listen and help me through a block, partly because she's lovely, partly because she's a writer herself. So she knows how it goes. And to be honest, one day she will be stood here talking to you about her stuff. So I would like to next talk about Million Eyes as a whole. I suppose most of you here have read the first Million Eyes, but for the uninitiated, Million Eyes is about, essentially the premise is, what if the timeline we're living in is wrong? What if history has already been altered and the events that we are aware of, that we've learned about in school, what if they weren't ever meant to happen because they only happened because time travelers have been messing about with history? In the first book, there are two characters, Gregory Ferrer and Jennifer Larson, who team up after Ferrer discovers evidence that time travelers have been messing with history and were responsible for the shooting of King William II, the disappearance of the Princess in the Tower, and the car crash that killed Diana, Princess of Wales. So they team up to investigate Million Eyes and bring them down. Over the course of the book, they learn that Million Eyes are chasing something, a mysterious book with a mundane title that contains information that does damage to them. So they will stop at nothing to recover it. They will happily rewrite history to get it back. Now, by the end of Million Eyes 1, we learn that Million Eyes have actually been in power for a lot longer than people realise, and we start to learn why in book 2. So in Million Eyes 2, a similar pattern is followed. So Million Eyes, both Million Eyes books are set in multiple time frames. Million Eyes 2 follows two main characters, different ones. The characters in Million Eyes 2 are Adam Bryant, who you'll remember from the first book is the best friend of Jennifer Larson, and a new character called Dr. Samantha Lester, who is an archaeologist and paleontologist. And these two meet up to investigate Million Eyes and ultimately bring them down. In Million Eyes 1, there is something that is doing damage to the timeline, that's this mysterious book. In Million Eyes 2, there is someone who is doing damage to the timeline, quite deliberately, and that is this person called the Unraveller, who, at the point that Lester and Adam meet up, you don't know who the Unraveller is. They don't either. The moment that brings those two together is when Dr. Lester's company make a very weird archaeological discovery in East London. I'm not going to tell you what that is. So the second book, in a similar way to the first book, has all these historical events re-explained with time travel. The second book reveals what lies in the Bermuda Triangle and what happened to the ill-fated Flight 19, who snitched on Guy Fawkes and brought down the gunpowder plot, what killed the dinosaurs, and who Jesus really was. Controversial, I know. In book 2, you also find out a bit more about Million Eyes' origins, how they came to be. I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but it is to do with an event in the future that you find out a bit more about in book 3. I would say probably the biggest difference between book 1 and book 2 is that in book 1 you're very clear on who the villains are and who the heroes are. But by the end of book 2, it's quite unclear who you're meant to be rooting for. So I've mentioned that there's a third book. I'm about 2/3 of the way through book 3, a little bit over. I'm hoping that it will come out towards the end of next year. maybe early the year after. There is also, if you're not aware, a short story collection called Million Eyes Extra Time. This was published by Elsewhen Press a little bit before the first novel. It's a free collection. You can download it as an ebook for free from their website or my website. This collection, it's short stories set in the Million Eyes universe, featuring mysteries, conspiracy theories, and urban legends that I wasn't able to fit into the novels, but I thought would be fun to explain with time travel and having to do with this organisation, these time travellers, that you find out more about in the first book. So in the Million Eyes short stories, you've got things like the Loch Ness Monster, the Paul is Dead conspiracy theory. I don't know if anyone's heard of that, but that's the claim that Paul McCartney was killed in a car crash in the 60s and replaced with a duplicate. It's also got the deaths of JFK and Marilyn Monroe, lots of conspiracy theories surrounding them. Is this actually working still?
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Turned it off then. No. Okay. Yes. So, Million Eyes Extra Time. Oh, also, the claim that Queen Elizabeth I was actually a man in drag, that's also in there. So I tried to throw everything in as much as I possibly can. So that's Million Eyes 2 and Million Eyes Extra Time. I've mentioned conspiracy theories a few times. Now, the Million Eyes series, the novels and the short stories, they are sci-fi books, they are historical fiction books, but at their heart they are conspiracy thrillers that incorporate real-life conspiracy theories. Now, at the last launch, I made a point of saying that even though I write about conspiracies in my fiction and on my blog, I am not a conspiracy theorist. And I feel like I need to say that again in the current climate. The problem is, conspiracy theories have gotten a little bit of a bad rep in the last couple of years. And I think with COVID deniers and anti-vaxxers and all that garbage Trump was spreading about, I think we're now seeing conspiracy theories that are dangerous and doing harm. And it's made me wonder, should I be writing about this stuff? Should I be putting this into my books? And funnily enough, just last weekend, me and Catherine were up at Novacon, which is a convention up north. We were celebrating the release of Million Eyes 2 and a bunch of other Elsewhen Press books. And somebody came up to me and we were talking about Million Eyes, and she said, "Ooh, that sounds up my street. Not that I'm a conspiracy theorist or anything." And it made me think that people are a bit sensitive about this now. And the thing is, to me, conspiracy theories are fun what-if scenarios. They're not meant to be taken seriously. I mean, some people do take them seriously, but I don't. They are about they're about paranoia, I suppose, and the idea that people you think you can trust are doing nefarious things behind the curtain. That makes for a great story, but that to me is what conspiracy theories are. They are great stories. And I guess so. The purpose of the Million Eyes. You still with me? Mm-hmm. Purpose of the Million Eyes books is just to remind people that conspiracy theories can just be a bit of fun. I think these books have suspense, they have action, they have humour, they have twists and turns and time travel paradoxes, a little bit of gore, but ultimately they are just about being a bit of fun. They're just designed to entertain. I think on that note, I'm going to do a reading. I'm not going to do a reading. I'm not going to read it on that. Okay. So.
Well, it's your problem. You have the book.
I have the book. Okay.
It's a sanitary entire
Yes,
version.
the reason I can't read it from the book is the section I want to read is rather sweary, and I've had to sanitize it for young ears. So, let me just find it. Yeah, I've got it. So, this section, it takes place shortly after the discovery in East London that Dr. Lester's company makes, that I mentioned earlier. It follows a character called Keiko, who is transporting this discovery back to Dr. Lester's labs. Everyone hear me okay still? Okay. Right. A few minutes later, the van signalled to go right at the traffic lights up ahead, which turned from green to amber as the van came within 100 yards. Suddenly, the van's low hum became a hoarse roar. It shot forwards, tires squealing. Keiko jerked back in her seat, her phone tossed from her hand and landing somewhere behind the seats. What the hell? Keiko stared ahead as the van swerved around several cars and hurtled through what was now a red light, narrowly missing a car on the intersection. Nav, what's happening? She asked the van's computer. Nav didn't reply. The speedometer inched past 45 in a 30 zone, overtaking a bunch of cars. How is this happening? Driverless cars can't speed. Nav, slow to 30. Nav was silent. The van's speed was steady at 45. Now, slow to 30, now. Still no reply. Keiko's chest tightened. She felt uncomfortably hot despite the climate control. The van turned right down a road it wasn't meant to take. This wasn't the way to Lipper headquarters. Something's really wrong. Now, give me manual control. Keiko expected pedals to rise out of her footwell and a panel to open in the dash, from which the steering wheel would emerge. Nothing happened. Keiko leaned forwards to press the emergency override button. Still nothing happened. What? If the computer wasn't responding, then the emergency override was all she had left. She pressed it again, harder. No change. Keiko swallowed. Though her skin was hot, her blood ran cold. What the hell do I do now? The van turned right at a roundabout and the speed limit changed to 50. The van's speed rose to 60. Keiko tasted something tangy. She realised she'd been chewing her lip, blood now dribbling onto her tongue. The van had been hacked. It was the only explanation. Someone wanted these bones. Keiko craned her neck behind her, looking down into the space behind the seats for her phone. Daylight now fully extinguished, the back of the van and all the artifacts were quilted in a dense darkness intermittently penetrated by dim flashes of street lamps. The floor behind the seats was where the darkness was at its thickest. She couldn't see her phone. Now, the interior lights on. She was so used to everything happening automatically, she'd forgotten that the computer had stopped responding to her. She reached to flick the switch on the ceiling light. Nothing. She flicked it twice. God's sake, nothing works. Breath quickening, Keiko twisted against her seatbelt and reached behind the seat, hand fumbling about in the dark. Oh, where are you? There. She palmed the phone and tapped the screen with her finger. It was off. But the battery was at 95% when she last looked. She pushed the on button on the rim and waited. Stared at the black screen. Damn it! A jolt of panic hit her. They'd hacked her phone too? How? She threw the phone into the passenger footwell in frustration. Now what? The van was forced to stop behind a line of traffic on a two-lane road, traffic lights ahead and a stream of cars coming the other way. Keiko had no choice. She'd have to get out. Let whoever was controlling the van have it, and the bones. She pressed the button on her seatbelt buckle. What? The expected click didn't come. The button did nothing. It wouldn't unclick. She pulled at the strap hard, but the tongue wouldn't come out. Oh, come on. She pulled the handle on the driver's door. She just had to wriggle out the seatbelt. Damn it! The door was locked, but the switch was in the unlocked position. The door should be open. No. Knowing it probably wouldn't work, Keiko tried her electric window. Proven right, her whole body sank. She stared ahead. The lights would turn green at any moment. She'd lose her chance to escape. She had to get out of this van now. A frisson of desperation threw her elbow at the window. The glass was cut and held out defiantly. All Keiko did was smack her funny bone, pain shuddering up and down her arm. Pulling all her might into her arm, she slammed her elbow into the window again. With a smash, the glass shattered, tiny pieces raining into Keiko's lap. Freedom. She strained to squirm free of the seatbelt. It kept locking. Finally managing to get her torso free, she thrust her head and shoulders through the broken window and started to climb out. Then the lights up ahead turned green. No! The van accelerated forwards, picking up speed. Keiko quickly pulled herself back in through the window. Oh God. Her heart thrummed in her ears. Waves of nausea swept through her. The van turned up a road without streetlights, drenching Keiko in darkness. Where are you taking her? It pulled into the empty, minimally lit car park of a huge, shadowy warehouse. Damn, it wasn't empty. There was a black van of a similar size to hers outside the front of the warehouse. Keiko shook. Her van parked behind the black one. Her heart stopped as the rear door burst open and 4 black-clad figures in balaclavas spilled out. Keiko held her breath as they ran round to the rear of her van and pulled open the doors. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm now going to be... Right when I'm about to finish, until this thing starts to collapse or melt or something. So I'm now going to be selling and signing books. The Million Eyes 2, the Unraveller, is available for £9, and I have got some copies of the first book here as well, also for £9. I have also, as it's Christmas, or it certainly is in our house, I brought some copies of a self-published children's book series that I released a few years back called the East Pudding Chronicles. They're a series of 5 books. They're basically about the alternative origins of Christmas traditions. So how Santa came to be, why we put up Christmas trees, why we kiss under the mistletoe, that sort of thing. If you have kids who, or know kids who like Roald Dahl, and in particular Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, they'll probably like those. Those are £5 each, or I'm selling the whole set for £20. So I'll leave it there. Please enjoy your drinks and the food that's been put out, and thank you all for coming.